Welcome to Daily English Stories. Every story hides a world. Some inspire, some haunt, some stay forever. Chapter 1. Carefree and Comfortable. Lina was 16, and to her, life felt like an endless holiday. Every morning, while the sun lit up the rooftops and birds filled the air with soft calls, Lina stayed curled up in bed, dreaming of things she would never work for. Her mother would knock gently on the door. "Lina, wake up. Breakfast is ready." But Lina would groan, pull the blanket over her head and mumble, "5 more minutes," until those 5 minutes turned into an hour. When she finally got up, the day outside had already begun. Her younger brother would be off to school. Her father would have left for work, and her mother would be busy sweeping the floor. Lina, however, moved slowly through the house, yawning, ignoring the list of chores her mother often left on the kitchen counter. Fold the laundry, help with dishes, water the plants. The list stayed there untouched, day after day. Lina would glance at it and think, "It's not urgent. I'll do it later." But later never came. Instead, she spent hours sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, watching videos, or staring out of the window. Sometimes she imagined herself in grand places, a famous artist, a brilliant student, someone admired by everyone. Yet in reality, she did nothing to build that future. When her mother asked for help, Lina often smiled lazily and said, "You do it so much better than I can. I'll just mess it up." Her mother's eyes would soften, but there was a hint of sadness in them that Lina never noticed. She didn't see how her mother's hands were rough from years of work, how her father returned home tired but still offered a smile, or how her brother tried to do extra chores so she wouldn't have to. Days melted into weeks, weeks into months. Lina told herself that she had plenty of time, that responsibilities were for adults, not for her. When neighbors' children studied late into the night for exams, Lina laughed. "Why stress yourself? Life is meant to be enjoyed," she would say, stretching out lazily on her bed. Her room was a reflection of her habits. Clothes piled up on the chair, books unopened, a layer of dust on her desk. Even when she noticed it, she shrugged. "I'll clean it tomorrow," she whispered to herself. But tomorrow always stayed just out of reach. Sometimes when she lay awake at night, she felt a faint unease. She would think about the projects she never finished, the help she never offered, the time slipping quietly through her fingers. But then she would smile, convincing herself, "There's always another day. I'm still young." What Lina didn't realize was that every morning she chose to waste was a piece of her life she would never get back. Every chore ignored was a lesson missed. Every hour spent idling was an opportunity quietly fading. Her world seemed easy, yes, but beneath that comfort, something precious was being lost. For now Lina kept dreaming and delaying, not knowing that life has a way of teaching lessons, sometimes gently, sometimes with a jolt, that no one can escape forever. Chapter 2. A hard lesson. The morning started like any other. Lina stayed in bed far too long, staring at the ceiling, thinking about nothing in particular. She didn't even notice the calendar on her wall, marked with a bright red circle around today's date, Project Submission Day. It wasn't until her friend Maya called, her voice urgent through the phone. "Lina, are you on your way? They're collecting the projects in 15 minutes. Lina shot up, her heart thudding. The project, the one she was supposed to finish last week, the one she told herself she'd start tomorrow. Her mind spun as she looked at the messy desk in front of her, scattered papers, an unfinished model, glue still unopened. I'm not ready," she stammered. Maya went quiet for a second. "Lina, you promised to work with me. What happened?" I don't know," Lina whispered. But deep down, she knew exactly what had happened. Panic pushed her into action. She grabbed papers, tried to piece things together, but it was useless. Her hands shook as she stared at the clock. Time had run out. By the time she reached school, breathless and disheveled, the teacher was already calling out names. Maya stood near the front, holding her neatly finished project, her eyes filled with disappointment when they met Lina's. "Miss Lina?" The teacher's voice cut through the room. Lina stepped forward, slowly, her empty hands trembling. I don't have it, ma'am." There was a pause, a silence that felt heavier than anything she had ever known. The teacher's face hardened. "You've wasted your time, and now you've wasted an opportunity. 0 marks." The words landed like stones in her chest. Lina lowered her eyes as whispers spread across the room. She felt heat rush to her face, not anger but shame. For the first time, she realized that her laziness didn't just affect her. It disappointed others too. When she got home that afternoon, she thought the worst was over. But as she opened the door, she saw her father crouched on the floor, struggling to fix a leaking pipe. Water dripped steadily, spreading across the kitchen tiles. Her mother, clearly exhausted, was trying to hold a bucket under the leak. "Lina," her father said with a tired smile, "can you bring me the toolbox?" She froze. The toolbox. She remembered she had moved it to her room weeks ago while playing, and never returned it. She rushed to her room, searching under piles of clothes, pushing aside books, feeling her heartbeat quicken as the sound of dripping water echoed louder. By the time she found it and hurried back, her mother had slipped slightly on the wet floor, gripping the counter to steady herself. Lina's heart sank as she rushed forward, guilt flooding her. "I'm so sorry," she blurted out, handing over the toolbox with shaking hands. Her father didn't scold her, but the tired look in his eyes hurt more than any angry words could. That evening, sitting alone by the window, Lina felt something she had never felt before. The missed project, her friend's disappointment, her parents' struggle, each memory twisted inside her, sharp and painful. She realized that her carelessness wasn't harmless. It was hurting the people she loved, and shaping a future she didn't want. As the sun dipped below the rooftops and the sky turned orange, Lina wiped her eyes quietly. For the first time in her life, she didn't say, "I'll do it tomorrow." Instead, she whispered to herself, "This has to change." Chapter 3. A New Start. The next morning felt different. Lina woke before the alarm, blinking in the soft light that slipped through her curtains. For a moment she simply lay there, listening to the quiet hum of the house. Then, with a deep breath, she pushed back the blanket and stepped onto the cold floor, determined not to waste another minute. In the kitchen, her mother looked up in surprise. "Lina, you're awake this early?" "Yes, Ma," Lina said with a shy smile. "Let me help you today." At first her hands fumbled as she sliced vegetables and swept the floor. But her mother's gentle guidance turned mistakes into laughter. By the time breakfast was ready, the kitchen was filled not just with the smell of fresh bread, but with a warmth Lina hadn't felt in years. After breakfast, she sat at her desk. The papers that once gathered dust were now neatly stacked. Her books lay open, and for the first time in a long while, she read with focus. Every solved problem, every paragraph written, felt like a small victory. It wasn't easy. Her mind wandered, her hand cramped, but she reminded herself of the promise she had made. No more wasting time. In the days that followed, Lina began to change in ways her family noticed. She folded the laundry without being asked. She helped her brother with his homework, smiling at his questions instead of brushing him off. When her father came home tired, she greeted him at the door, taking his bag and asking about his day. The house began to feel lighter, brighter. Her mother's tired eyes softened with pride. Her father, usually quiet, started sharing more stories at the dinner table. Even her younger brother began looking up to her, copying her habits, and beaming when she praised him. At school, Lina surprised her teachers, too. She submitted her assignments early, raised her hand in class, and offered to help classmates with difficult lessons. Maya, her friend, noticed the difference and whispered one afternoon, "I don't know what changed, Lina, but I'm proud of you." Lina smiled, feeling a warmth she couldn't quite describe. "I just realized I was wasting too much," she said softly. The weeks turned into months, and though Lina wasn't perfect, she still had days when she felt tired or slow. She never slipped back into the thoughtless laziness that once ruled her life. Each effort brought her a sense of peace, and each responsibility fulfilled earned her the respect of those around her. One evening she stood by the window again, watching the sunset bathe the rooftops in gold. The same view that once felt ordinary now seemed alive, full of promise. Her hands still smelled faintly of soap from washing the dishes. Her desk was neatly organized, and her heart felt light. Lina smiled to herself as she thought about how much had changed. She realized something simple yet powerful. Laziness doesn't just waste time. It quietly wastes life itself. But effort, even in small steps, builds a life filled with meaning, connection, and joy. As the first evening star appeared in the sky, Lina whispered a silent promise to herself, a promise she knew she would keep. "Never again will I let my days slip by without purpose. Life is too precious to waste."